We have all the ways the Diamondbacks can still make it into the playoffs, along with which of you fans have made Archie's naughty list.
All of them.
All of them. Don't go anywhere. We have more than 30 seconds. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montilla. Of course, I am occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This man is known as your Thunderstick. It's Jesse Friedman. And that man over there, he's the closer. It's the one and only Archie Bradley. Of course, this podcast is brought to you by our friends at Bet365. Go download the Bet365 app right now. Use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Diamondbacks have one more regular season series left.
I'm going to get comfy.
Yeah, you want to get in.
There's a lot to discuss.
We have a lot to get in. Don't go anywhere. Take off your shoes. We're going to talk about how the Arizona Diamondbacks can get into the playoffs here with one more season left against the San Diego Padres. Obviously, you've been in this scenario before, and you know how it feels as a player. But, I mean, how much pressure is on you as a player at this point individually? I mean, I know it's a team game. I know they try to, say, hey, let's all kind of relax. That's one of the things that was Torey's message. But
yeah,
how hard is it during this kind of stretch?
It's extremely hard because for me, I say extremely hard. Luckily, I've talked about before, this team did have a World Series run last year. So they're not foreign to getting in late, making a late run as a wild card team. But this is where we talk about mental strength in the game.
Yeah.
Physically, whatever. We're at the end of the season. You're laying it all out there. But this is where we talk about mentally being strong and being able to overcome these doubts and these things that start to creep into your head, where the season may come down to your at bat. The season may come down to your inning in relief, and easier said than done. But you got to approach it the same, but understand the magnitude and just have a little bit more sense and savvy to the consequences of this next pitch or swing I'm going to take.
You're right.
Well, things got a little bit more complicated by the fact that the Mets and Braves are now they didn't play baseball yesterday. They're not playing baseball today either. We now have a doubleheader scheduled for Monday, which is technically tentative. It sounds like if the Diamondbacks are eliminated this weekend and it's only a matter of seeding that would be determined on Monday, then they might not even play the series at all. Archie, I imagine you haven't been in a situation exactly like this, but what do you think would go through your mind? I mean, I'm envisioning a scenario where the Diamondbacks on Sunday, they play the last game of the season and they don't know whether they've made the postseason. They might have to wait until Monday. And if they did make the postseason on Monday, I don't think they have a chance to celebrate because they just have to get on an airplane and fly off to wherever they're going.
One thing I will say about celebrating for this team, they made it to the World Series last year.
Sure.
So maybe it's one of those things like, hey, we've made it, let's go finish it. Not that you don't celebrate making the playoffs, because you always celebrate making the playoffs. You never know. I mean, I've only made it twice in my 8-year career. You never know when you're not going to make it. And I've been on a lot of teams that didn't make it. But this is crazy to me. I know there's a lot of parties, a lot of behind the scenes when it comes to making games happen, but we've known about this hurricane and this rain coming in for a long time. We understand the importance of these games, and there's a lot of factors here, not only for the D-backs, but for the Mets and the Braves. I mean, we're talking about maybe wearing out your pin and your arms before you even start a wild card series, or your playoff roster could be completely different because of how you have to pitch going in. And again, how do you, if you're the D-backs, we'll go over the scenarios of how they get in, but mentally and physically, how do you prep and stay ready when, you could just be doing it for no reason? You know what I mean? It's just very strange for what is so important of the last part of the season and should be so exciting. There's a lot of kind of head scratching things that are going down right now.
Well, and of course, Jesse brought that up, but you have the fact that this series, these games could be canceled simply because they're deemed unnecessary at that point. I mean, is that fair? Is that something as players that you're okay with when they do, considering it can only impact seeding, but it can impact seeding?
I view it. I mean, I think MLB has tried to address things like this. I know this is a weird circumstance, but that's why a few years ago, the last season or the last game of the season, all games go at the same time.
Yeah.
So the Cardinals can't scratch Adam Wainwright right before the game and save him for game one. Right. So to not have to play these games, to get to play 3 less games, again, I know we're talking about cramming him the day before, which I don't think is fair to those teams either.
Right.
But to play 3 less games from a physical standpoint, getting to reset your rotation, reset your bullpen, it's kind of BS for the teams that played through.
Sure.
I don't know. Again, I don't think there is a right answer because I'm not going to be mad at the teams who get in or don't, but it is.
It's like a disadvantage for those teams that do have to play those extra games on Monday, and then it's a disadvantage for everyone else if they don't have to play those games. It also feels a bit like the celebrating portion is a bit of a disappointment. Like,
yes.
How like we talked about it, like you said, the party is still going to happen probably on the plane or something like that, but it's just not going to be.
Does that mean that all of us media members get invited on?
Yeah, I would say, I think so.
That's
I just want to be there.
I think if we get in, we're going anyways. Because we've been, I mean, again, I've lost sleep over the last couple weeks, but again, I know that weather and things, that's what makes the game great, but eventually we have to look at some of these things and have some better plans in place. Where, again, I know it's not logistically the easiest thing to do, but Miami was on the road.
Yeah.
I felt like both those teams could have slipped over to Lone Depot, played those 2 or 3 games, and then continue into this last weekend the way we should.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot to make that happen. It's not that easy, but
sure. But a neutral
these
site
games
seems
do
like
matter, and to not have to play them, and for the D-backs to play and not, in a way, get to look up and be like, oh, the Mets lost tonight. Or the Braves lost. We're now a full game up. We win tomorrow. We're in. Like, you know what I mean? Like that provides a lot of mental uncertainty playing these games. I know everyone's like, just win. If you win, you control your destiny, but there are some outside factors that if you know the Braves lost going into this game and it's the 8th inning and you're up by 5, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I mean, you still have the fact that weather could still be bad on Monday,
yes,
right?
100%.
That would be, oh my gosh.
Right? I mean, like, it's not guaranteed that a hurricane is just going to go away and you're going to be able to play baseball there in Atlanta, right? So, I mean, I still think, like, a neutral site would have made the most
let's
sense.
have the Mets meeting in Kansas City, right? That's where the Braves finish, or whatever. I mean, I just feel like there's there's better options to do this than like, hey, let's play it the day before the wild card series. And again, the wild card team made the World Series last year. Like, it's not like, hey, these wild card teams aren't good.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's a 7 and 8 seed in the NBA
like
or whatever,
these teams have a chance. And again, I think some advantages are to these wild card teams that are playing hot and continue playing instead of this time off that these 1 seeds are going to get.
Yeah.
I think the Diamondbacks, as far as how they're impacted by all of this, I don't think there's any winners in this situation. So I'm not here to say the D-backs are, they have it way worse than everyone else. Like, I can't imagine the Braves and the Mets planning to play 5 games in 4 days before potentially making the postseason. I mean, that sounds awful. But from the Diamondbacks perspective, there are some negatives here. Number one, the Mets and Braves previously were going to use their best pitching against each other this week. Instead, what's happening is they're now using that best pitching this weekend against other teams as opposed to just sort of trying to knock each other out with it. And I guess they're just going to kind of save their leftovers for Monday and just see kind of what they have left out.
Well, because the opposite, like, they can scoreboard watch and in a way kind of determine how, like I said, if they know the D-backs go 0-2 and they just need to win 1 game each, they can, like we said, save these guys and put their best foot forward here and then get their days off knowing that they're not going to have to play that doubleheader, which, again, I go back to what I just said. I think that's unfair.
But what about the layoff? Like, as we know, the Diamondbacks don't play great the day after a day off, but what about the 2-day layoff for these teams that the games have been canceled and now they have to go play teams that kind of stayed in the groove because they didn't.
I think, again, this last year's playoffs were kind of showed what these days off meant. I think this year it'll be the same. And again, I know what MLB's trying to do because of weather and travel, and you try to factor these things in. But I think if you see these top teams, like especially the 1s and 2s, get beat out like we did last year early on and not advance, that they're going to revise this playoff system a little better.
Yeah.
I say that. I like the way it is now. I like the 3 wild cards.
Yeah.
I think it makes the trade deadline more interesting. I think it gives more teams a better shot to go after it, put more money towards winning. And so I like the system.
I imagine if the Tigers knew where they would be at right now, they wouldn't have traded Jack Flaherty away. Or
Yeah, that
other,
is wild.
Things are crazy, right?
But Jackson Jobe, shout out to my Oklahoma guy, made his debut
Oh.
the other night, and
There
he's
you
gonna.
go.
I mean, last couple games pumping 98 to 100, so
That's dope.
good for him. 22 years old, Oklahoma product. Shout out Jackson.
That's awesome.
Where would the Dodgers be without Jack Flaherty?
No kidding.
He's the only living starting
And
pitcher
who-
remaining on the team, right?
Who nixed that trade? He was supposed to go somewhere else, right? And they canceled it because of medical reasons.
You're right.
He was approved, like that trade. He was
Yeah.
supposed to go somewhere else, and they nixed it because of shoulder concerns, I think, or back concerns.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
And
I'm
then
gonna
he
see if
ended
I
up
can figure out who
in
that was.
LA.
Well,
Was it Yankees?
I think that's right.
Yeah,
Which-
Yankees were also interested in him, but
Yeah.
backed out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Same thing.
that's
I
what
bet
it
they
is.
would love to
yeah.
have a Flaherty.
Have a do-over
Yeah.
on that right about now. Sheesh. And I mean, there's just so many variables. We're going to talk here shortly about all the different scenarios in which the Diamondbacks can make it into the playoffs. But I think the thing that sucks is that they don't, like, they do control their own destiny, but pretty much they have to sweep one of the
Yeah,
hottest teams
I
in
mean,
baseball.
that's what I
in
mean.
order
I
to do
mean,
so.
If to me to sleep healthy the next couple, like into those off, is you got to sweep the Padres.
Yeah.
Which is a daunting task. I mean, they have a chance to win the division. They're one of the hottest, best teams in baseball.
Yeah.
We'll go over their rotation later on, who they're bringing in. But I said it earlier, kind of joking. Darvish has a chance to end the D-back season. He did it in 2018 in the DS for the Dodgers, but that's what I'm hoping. A little reversal, new team, new mojo, and D-back sweep.
Well, what you were on that 2018 team, right? You guys,
Yes.
missed the playoffs and know what this is.
That's a
kinda
nice
like.
way to put
Are you
it.
asking Archie about the 28?
That's a nice.
I don't think
That's
you're
a
supposed
nice
to
way.
do that.
That's a nice way to put it. That we missed the playoffs. We collapsed and absolutely shit the bed.
You
Swear
said it,
jar.
I
Put it in the swear jar. Yeah, I mean it's tough, and that's what I think is most difficult about this time as players and staff. Really, I mean everyone involved with this team, fans, is you've worked so hard for the season. You've played really such good baseball. I know the last month, whatever, that's part of the season. That's the roller coaster I've talked about, and that I have a much better perspective for being on the outside looking in this year. But to play these last 3 games, and even know if you go 2-3, like I said, we'll go over the scenarios, but you don't really control your destiny. There's things that could happen where if this were to play out normally, again, you would. You would have a much better chance of understanding what needs to be done to get in this year.
Thoughts on Zach Gallen yesterday? What
Save
he
the
did?
season.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone feels that way. I mean, statistically, I think we talked about it that there still would have been a chance to get in, but that's our guy. That's the ace. That's who he was last year, and that's who you expect to step up on that type of game and deliver like he did and save the season, put the team on his back, and keep our playoff chances alive.
How does that? I mean, like, it feels like it pumps everybody up, right? I mean,
it pumps me up
just to see Zach. Like,
I mean,
be the ace.
Zach is my friend anyways, but now, like, say, critiquing him or judging him from this side, this is what you expect him to do.
Yeah.
This is why you pay him. This is why you keep him here. I know the injuries, whatever, that's part of being the number one guy. But last night for me is Zach Gallen is our ace. He is the face of this team in terms of pitching. I felt that way when we first traded for him from the Marlins, the way he's carried himself and pitched. And last night may have been the biggest start of his Diamondbacks career, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was huge, and I mean, he stepped up to the moment.
Yes.
And I mean, it's unfortunate that prior to his start, we had Eduardo Rodriguez and Brandon Pfaadt both have such bad outings, right? And I mean, these were the 2 guys that we kind of talked about being that third pitcher if they go that far in the wild card, game in the wild card series. And it also just felt like how is it that both of these guys that came off of such good starts, now kind of collapse in their very important starts leading up to the postseason?
Yes. Again, that's where even more those 2 duds. I say duds. That's a bad way to put it because I wouldn't talk about guys that way. That's just me talking in my head.
Sure.
2 bad starts from 2 guys. Where again, I go and just the Gallen start is just, I mean, massive. The momentum, the feeling of the Giants are out of it, have nothing to play for outside of just pride and respect for the game, but immense amount of pressure and again, a feeling that all of us like, man, are we about to blow this? You know what I mean? Like we were talking about in the 18 season, different things like that, but let's just win now.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest thing is win.
It's just one series. And I mean, they have beat teams. We've talked about this. They've beat teams where those series were coming up. We're like, I don't know. This doesn't
Yeah.
look good, or this stretch doesn't look good. It's tough. They have the Padres and the Dodgers, and they almost swept both of those.
I think that was when we
teams,
went on that big stretch,
Right.
that early July.
Yeah, July. Exactly.
That's when this team really started to put it together. So again, if I'm Torey, those are some things I'm tapping into. Little messages, letting some of these vets know, spread the word. Hey, we beat these guys in July. Then we rolled the Dodgers. Like, we can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, in my opinion, one thing I really did enjoy about playing for Joe Madden that I think Torey does a little differently is Joe was no team meetings outside the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year. Because he didn't want there to be this extra emphasis on like, oh, we have to win. He didn't want it to be an out of the ordinary day where guys feel extra pressure or are doing things differently than they would for game 100 that they're doing for game 161. You know? So I think Torey has learned, you know, he needs to talk to the right guys, but you can't be too rah right now. Because again, physically, mentally, you're at your wit's end and just hanging on by a thread to put together 3 more good games to get in.
We did just hear about Torey giving a bit of
that he read him the riot act. That's what he said.
That's what we originally heard. But
then when you get it from the players, it sounded like a much more loving message than reading anyone the riot act, because that's Torey in general. Torey, I mean, Torey can get me. Torey can throw around some 4-letter words, but at the same time, man, he really does love his players.
Yes.
And I mean, he comes from even in a position of like being angry with you as like a disappointed dad, you know.
That's exactly how
it feels worse than someone just screaming
even
at you.
Still to this day, like when I caught up with Torey this spring, I felt like I was talking to a father figure. The way his words and care, and you feel them, and that's what I mean. Like Torey's going to provide a message that is a lot deeper than these last 3 games. And I think, again, that's what I've always loved about Torey. I'm sure you're to pan those guys in the clubhouse. Like Torey is as player first and relatable as a manager that I've ever played for.
Yeah.
Did Torey read you guys the riot act in 2018 at any point?
No, I think Torey had some original stuff that he read us. Also, I like Torey. It's I mean, guys still do it, but Torey wasn't afraid to jump our ass too. Torey would come in and sit down, listen up. That was a terrible series. Use some other profanities here and there. I don't want to put more in the swear jar today. So. But I think Torey is such a, and I think again, I think that's why people hate on Torey so much. I feel like every fan base hates on their manager, but the stuff I see 100%. Is because Torey views this like when I fail, Torey fails. Not like, oh, the Diamondbacks failed. Like I failed and Torey failed. Like we were the same. Not like the team. You know, he takes each guy's failure so personally. And like when you look at Torey's career and his up and down and how like he gets it, man. He knows how tough it is. And I think in some ways he's always held on to that, and that gives him that bridge to crossover where sometimes it's like, oh crap, this guy's my manager. I need to not like respect him more, but like realize that, you know, he's the man here.
Yeah. Well, of course, we thank you guys so much for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. If you have not done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever our shows go live. And with this crazy playoff scenario this weekend, we have no idea when we're going to go live. So make sure to sign up for those notifications. Of course, hit that like button, HTL. We miss you, Damon. Of course, on the audio podcasting side, make sure, see, we're always Damon's dogs. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you subscribe on your favorite audio podcasting app and leave us a review. Those 5-star reviews do mean the world to us. We will have more on the scenarios that the Arizona Diamondbacks could find themselves in order to get to the playoffs here shortly. So don't go anywhere. But first, make sure to check out Bet365. Bet365, of course, one of our favorite apps, has 90 million worldwide users, makes football so much more fun. They pioneered live in-game betting, and currently they have the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. Right now, if you get down on betting on baseball, for instance, there's all sorts of early payout offers across sports, but the early payout offer on MLB, if your team goes up by 5 runs or more, you win with that early payout offer, regardless of the outcome of the game. Same game parlay and parlay selections will be marked as winners as well. Right now, new customers can choose between 2 offers when they sign up with Bet365. Use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Deposit $10 and choose either between a bet and get offer where you can place a $5 more bet and get $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer where you can place up to a $1,000 bet. And if your qualifying bet loses, you receive a matched refund in bonus bets. Download the Bet365 app. You can use that code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. All right, well, Gila River Resorts and Casinos, no one does it better than Gila River. It is where we will be holding so many of our Cardinals and Suns watch parties this year, so make sure to join us out there. Stay tuned for information on how to hang out with us in regards to those watch parties. But, of course, even when we're not having watch parties, Gila River is the place to go for fun, for entertainment, for a staycation. It's still hot out. Go to their pool and drink a frosty beverage. Right now, you can check out their 4,500 slots and live table games for a fun night out. You can catch all the action at any of their sports books at their 4 locations here in the Valley. So check out and experience the best the Valley has to offer. Head to Gila River Resorts and Casinos right now and let them show you what next level is all about. Not right now. Wait until the end of the show before you go. But, of course, head out there. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. All right. Well, we have a lot of things to discuss here. A million different scenarios. Well, we did the math. Maybe not a million scenarios.
It's not quite a million,
Felt
but
like
it is more than 100.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
there are a lot. But first, let's take a look at the wild card standings to see where things are at right now. Diamondbacks right now still technically tied with the Mets, but not really, because the Mets hold that tiebreaker. Braves also hold the tiebreaker over the D-backs, and this is where it stands. Diamondbacks are 88 and 71. It's kind of wild to think that the Diamondbacks have won 88 games, and we're sitting here going, well, it's probably going to take 91 to get there. And baseball has just been so close. The competition has been so close this year. No 100-win teams.
I was going to say, I think I saw something where across all of baseball, like the highest winning division will be 97 wins, something like that, which is like the lowest since 2001. I don't know what it is, but just to show you again what I think, talking about what this new playoff format has done, it's not equalized the field, but it's made baseball a lot more exciting. It made divisional races a lot more fun. Again, some teams have already clinched, but some of these divisions are going down to the last couple of days to determine where they're going to be.
Yeah,
I'm still mad they're not playing today. The Mets and Braves makes me so
yeah,
angry.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, I was scoreboard watching. I did want to ask you that. Is that like motivating? Like to look up and see that? Like
during the season, it's super detrimental. Like I say, during the season, we're in the season. During the dog days,
majority
like,
of the season,
yeah. But down to like this, where like, okay, our direct competition, like our 2 teams that we're close with, are playing each other in 3 games, and we can see like, okay, the Braves are who's back.
Yeah,
Braves lose 2 in a row. Okay, we need to win 1 game this series,
right?
And we're in. You know what I mean? Like it just.
So you don't feel like that's distracting. You feel like it can be almost motivating maybe at this point in the year.
I think so. Again, at the same time, from a younger perspective, for some of these kids in their 2nd and 3rd years, I do think it can be detrimental, because you see like, oh, the Braves lost. Now I'm going in with a 2-run lead. Like, oh, if I blow it, we could have closed out today.
We have to win this game now. We have to win.
But I do think there is some statistical advantage. Again, like, let's just say, for example, we are blowing a team out and we see the Braves lose. Like, okay, well, we can move some things around and change the way to set up. Like, we know we don't have to win Sunday. We can not say call it, but do whatever
just set
we want.
things up differently, right? Yeah.
So let's go through scenarios. I want to see like
Well, let's
lead the way here, Jesse, because you're the one that had to do the math on this.
This is going to be great. Let's start with scenario number 1, Erik. That's
the one.
This is the one I believe in. This is the one I believe in.
We could just stop the conversation right here. If the Diamondbacks sweep the San Diego Padres this weekend, and they are assured of a postseason spot, regardless of what the Mets or Braves do, or the doubleheader, or any of that stuff. It is a little bit interesting in that the Diamondbacks actually have a chance to overtake the Padres here as well. If the Padres lose tonight to the Dodgers, then there would be a 3-game gap between the Diamondbacks and the Padres, and this weekend series will determine the tiebreaker.
That's what I was laughing about. Like, everyone should be rooting for the Dodgers today. As weird as that
gross.
sounds,
it's so gross.
It is
so gross.
But let's go Dodgers. I don't think don't clip that ever. Like, let's make sure that gets deleted.
Clip it, keep it for a million years.
That was like a knife through my heart.
I don't even I want to throw up right now. I don't know.
I get it.
Especially the fact that Archie Bradley is saying on our show. It just doesn't feel right.
But just just, we talked about but we do. The Dodgers need to win. We need the Padres because, again, even from seeding, we could sweep the Padres or they lose and end up in a better spot than we were.
Right. That's still out there. And that's what's wild is that the Diamondbacks could technically still end up with the #1 overall wild card spot. And,
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
You've offended them, Archie. I will also say, as far as the Padres are concerned, they're going to have something to play for this weekend, at least in the first game. So if you were envisioning a scenario where
they just
even if the Dodgers win tonight, then the Padres do still have something to play for. Number one, I guess really because they just want to make sure that they get home field advantage in the postseason. They are assured of a spot, but they are not assured of the top wild card spot. And if they lose tonight, not only can the Diamondbacks catch them, but the Mets can also catch them. And that actually is also true if they win. If the Padres win tonight, the Mets can still catch them in the wild card race as well. So you're at least looking at a Padres team on Friday that is going to have something to play for.
Gross.
Yeah.
All right. Well, none of that provides me with any kind of hope. But let's move on to scenario 2. What do we got?
Yeah. So scenario 2, this is where we get into the numbers a little bit more. So this is if the Diamondbacks go 2-1 this weekend. They take 2 out of 3 from the San Diego Padres. They are assured of a postseason spot as long as there's 2 different scenarios here. You just need one of these 2 things to happen. You need either the Atlanta Braves to go 3-2 or worse, of course, or you need the New York Mets to go 2-3 or worse. So I guess just looking at the Braves, simplest way to think about it is as long as the Braves don't win 4 or 5 of their last 5 games, then the Diamondbacks are assured of a postseason spot by going 2-1. The other thing I'll say about the 2-1 scenario is that if the Diamondbacks go 2-1 and the Mets and Braves also go 2-1 this weekend in their series, which feels like a reasonable outcome, right? All 3 teams take 2 out of 3.
Sure.
The Diamondbacks in that case are assured of a postseason spot regardless of what happens on Monday. So they would clinch as of Sunday if all 3 teams go 2-1.
Okay.
There wouldn't be a way for both the Mets and the Braves to catch them on
So they
Monday.
would play that final series for one of them to get in.
Exactly. The D-backs would be in, and the Mets and Braves would be playing for their lives on Monday.
And then that doubleheader could still determine seeding as well as who actually makes it.
Correct.
Right.
Because technically, I would imagine if the Braves won 2, they would tie the D-backs, right, in record? If everyone went 2-1, and then they have to play the doubleheader, or maybe and the Braves win 2, that would put them at the same record, I think.
Yes, it would.
So many different things.
It's so gross.
Yeah, which is why,
and then they hold the tiebreakers.
I'm not even.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why there's so many implications here on how this goes down.
It's wild to me to even think that these games can't be played on Monday. But there is obviously if the Diamondbacks lose, I don't know if we have that scenario. But if the Diamondbacks get swept by the Padres, then
we'll get there. We'll get there.
We have 2. We have one more before this.
I don't want to look at that one, but okay, go ahead.
So, I guess I can go further down the road of the D-backs going 2-1 as far as the doubleheader scenarios on Monday. Do we want to circle back to that?
Yeah, I would love to because I think it's interesting.
Let's just go.
Okay, so this is where if you're a D-backs fan and you're not too happy about the doubleheader situation, I'm sorry, but this is not going to be good news for you because if the Diamondbacks go 2-1, right, they're putting themselves in a pretty good spot. But there is that scenario where both the Braves and the Mets also go 2-1, like I said, where you're good. The Monday games don't matter. However, if both the Mets and the Braves go 3-0, then on Monday, the D-backs would be at 90 wins, the Braves would be at 89, and the Mets would be at 90. So the Mets would have absolutely nothing to play for at that point. However, the only scenario where the D-backs would make the postseason is if the Mets won both of those games. So you would need the Mets to sweep a doubleheader where they're probably, they're still going to have to use some of their starting players, right? You only get 1 extra roster spot for a doubleheader.
Yep.
But yeah, that would feel very unlikely, right? And that's where the doubleheader puts the D-backs in a tough spot because if those 2 games were played when they normally would have been, then there wouldn't be an element of like, oh, the Mets don't have anything to play for. So that is one of several sort of disastrous scenarios that could happen on Monday.
And then the Mets play the Brewers.
Yep, Mets play the Brewers, and then the Royals play the Braves play the Royals.
Yeah, the Braves play the Royals. Yeah,
both playoff bound teams. Both have already clinched, right? The Royals have clinched as well, at least a playoff spot.
No, I think they're still. I think there are 2 games up in the wild card for the AL.
Okay, so
they're close.
They're close.
But they're not quite there yet.
But they would still have something essentially
to play for.
this
Yeah,
weekend,
so they're not that the Brewers are just cashing it in, but they're,
Yeah, the Brewers don't have much at this point. They're not going to advance their position as far as the top 3 teams.
Yep.
They're not going to lose. They're not going to have to face another, team on the road instead of having that home series in the first round. So.
Yeah, I mean, there is if the Padres in particular were to actually find a way to catch the Dodgers, which wouldn't be good news for the D-backs at all. But if that happened, then the Brewers might have something to play for, because then they might actually be able to catch the Padres, because they're currently only half a game behind the Padres in the standings. They could try to overtake them.
Everybody play as hard as you can. Can we just do that? How hard is that? Can we all just go out there and try to win our baseball games that we're participating
the way
in?
It should be.
So, I'm not going to dwell on this too long. We could talk about this for forever.
There are literally hundreds of scenarios.
The D-backs 2-1 scenario, going back to that real quick, it becomes disastrous if either the Braves or the Mets go 3-0 and the other is at least 2-1. So we just covered when the Braves and Mets are both 3-0 and how that's not a great scenario. Another scenario that's not great is if the Mets go 2-1 and the Braves go 3-0. This one would be particularly difficult for Diamondbacks fans to watch. In this instance, the D-backs are 90-72. Again, this is where the D-backs win 2 of their last 3.
They're all going to end up
the Braves are at 89 wins, and the Mets are at 89 wins.
So both teams just need to win one game on Monday to get in, and they can both be in, and they can just split it.
Yes.
You guys win game 1,
exactly.
we'll win game 2.
And it's not like a collusion, the Braves and the Mets are they're colluding to knock out the Diamondbacks. It's that both teams need to win one of these games in order to make it. However, once the first game of the doubleheader is played, then
that
the
team has zero
that
motivation
wins
to win
has no motivation to
Correct.
try in the next game. They're going to try to rest their guys because they're playing a wild card game
the next day.
24
next
hours.
Day. That's what I mean.
So it's kind of a built-in situation where the outcome the D-backs would need, which is for either of the teams to sweep, it's just not built for that. Because the moment one team wins, then that team has no motivation to come back and try in the next game. And I won't go into them too far, but if the Braves and Mets both go 2-1, again, D-backs are not automatically. And then if the Mets go 3-0 and the Braves go 2-1, the opposite of what we just talked about, it's a similar situation where the D-backs are counting on a team to win a game that they have no motivation to try to win. And of course, they are division rivals, right?
Correct.
Mets Braves, they're trying no matter what. It's just a matter of what are these starting lineups
it's
look
personnel.
like?
Even if you're a backup, you're going to go in there and play
you're
the
trying
hardest,
there's incentives. There's a lot of things still on the line as a player.
Yeah, absolutely.
And never in my life have I ever taken the field and not tried to win.
Not tried to win.
Right, exactly.
We talked about it earlier. Throughout a big league season and throughout your career, you understand that. All right, it's after the 6th inning. We're down by 6 or 7 or 8. More than likely we're going to lose this game. Not that we just give up, but we're going to maybe change some things up, throw in some bullpen guys, pull some starters out. But
and that mental attitude might not allow you as a player to give your best effort because you also already have kind of been but it doesn't mean you're not going to try when you're out there.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think, all of us want to win, but it does create some weird spots where you could, like you said, you see the team winning a game and then all of a sudden they're starting. It's a doubleheader game, so that's where again you can get creative. You could have a guy sitting in the locker room to go for game 2 that would never pitch into this game 2 scenario, but is going to start game 2, so you can save Fried or whoever to be ready to go.
I mean, you're probably bringing in an extra pitcher from AAA as your extra roster spot, and if you win the game 1 of the doubleheader, then maybe that guy becomes your game 2 starter. So, those scenarios. All this to say, if the Diamondbacks have not clinched a postseason spot as of Sunday, but they still have a shot at that point, they're not eliminated. Monday does not line up well for them. It is going to be hard for them to clinch on Monday if they're not able to do so on Sunday.
Well, thanks, Captain Bringdown.
I'm sorry. I know I'm kind of the bearer of bad news today. And with that, let's go to the next scenario, which is if the D-backs lose 2 out of 3 to the Padres, which becomes more challenging, not just from the doubleheader perspective, but you need some help. If the D-backs lose 2 out of 3, then they would make the postseason if either the Atlanta Braves went 2-3 or worse, or the New York Mets went 1-4 or worse.
Mets could they could still do that.
I mean,
Yeah,
honestly,
it's possible.
especially with this scenario, with the weather and everything that they're going through, like layoffs are not great for
No,
baseball.
they're not.
They're just not.
They're not. And again,
And both these teams could be bad because of it, right?
And
like
even the guys that they're saving up to go this weekend, they've
Yeah.
had extended days off, a couple days more than normal, which
Right.
could be very detrimental or extremely helpful. You never know. I'm always kind of on the side of, stay in the routine. Let's throw every fifth day. Let's, as a bullpen guy, I hated more than 2 days off. Hated it.
Interesting.
You look at my career, 2 days rest and less ERA and 2 days more in ERA. They are a drastic difference.
Would you rather be pitching on more than 2 days rest or a back-to-back-to-back?
Back-to-back-to-back.
Really?
Now
Wow.
it's you always think about your career and protecting yourself, and you're not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say you're not gonna put your career at jeopardy, because I do think there are sometimes you take the ball where you're like, I don't know if I should say I'm good to go today, but we're in the NLDS, we're in a wild card race, and I do think there is times where you do, like I said, put your career in front of, or you put the team in front of them winning in front of your career and longevity, and there's just some magic about September baseball and some things that you talk about pushing your body past what you think it's capable of. But especially now, I'd much rather be throwing on 3 days rest than 3 days off, 4 days off, going into one of the biggest outings of the year, being like, crap, dude, I haven't thrown in 4 days and I have Tatis, Machado, so-and-so to get through right now.
Yeah.
Like, or for whoever's in this instance. But I prefer being almost a little fatigued than just super rested without having pitched in a long time.
Interesting. Yeah.
The other thing real quick on 1 and 2, there's also the variable of whether the Diamondbacks are eliminated so that the Monday games don't even get played. And there are, of course, if they go 1 and 2, then the Monday doubleheader would have to be played as long as the Braves don't sweep their series this weekend. So if the Braves just win 2 out of 3 this weekend, and the D-backs lose 2 out of 3, then at least you'd have a shot. The Monday games would have to be played. You would need the Braves to lose both of those games in order to actually get in.
And I hate being pouty, being like, oh, it's unfair. Like we talked about earlier, they have to play them, but I also don't like making them play games that aren't necessary, because that does seem unnecessary, even though it is fair. But again, like,
especially the disadvantage it puts them at to start the playoffs. Just to start the playoffs.
Just to be like, oh, well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, circumstantially. And I don't know. It's a weird time where we're going through our 4th scenario or 3rd scenario. And
I've lost track of
it's again, I just think we go back to scenario 1. That's what I like the most is scenario 1, D-back sweep, and we're in.
Well, here's scenario number 4, which is not at all like scenario 1. This is the very dark timeline scenario. This is where the Diamondbacks get swept over the weekend, and they would not officially be eliminated. It is possible, but they would either need the Mets to lose out or the Braves to lose at least 4 out of their last 5. There'd be a pretty decent chance that the Monday doubleheader.
This is crazy, but this could happen as well.
Right.
I mean, the Padres are one of the best teams in baseball. The Royals are competing for a playoff spot and a better positioning.
Yeah.
And the Brewers, I know they've already clinched, but they clinched for a reason. They're a really good baseball team.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing a Pat Murphy-led team just kind of pack it in for a few days.
Not at all.
No way.
Not at all.
I think especially with what you see, like, they want these guys to play. Obviously, they're going to be a little strategic, but I think sometimes, like, you don't want multiple days off. You want these guys seeing 95 the day before they're going to see it in their most important at-bats than having a couple days off of not seeing it.
And not only that, but I mean, if both of these teams lose their first game in their series, then like that pressure becomes exponentially more, right? Like they just that starts to be that all the bad thoughts creep into your head. You start thinking about like, oh well, we're already thinking about this 2-game doubleheader. We might or might not have to play on Monday, and we've completely kind of overlooked this team we're playing this weekend,
especially in the playoffs. But these are playoff games now. Like
pretty much
one run feels like 3 almost. Like that's the way I put it. You know what I mean? And so like that's where you lose game 1. We talk about for any of these teams, and now you go into game 2. You go down 2 runs in the first, 2 runs in the second, and it feels like you're down 6, man. It feels like this weight where earlier in the season or in August when we're hot and rolling, it's no big deal. We're going to slug our way back out of this. That's where I go back to mentally. These are the toughest, especially with all these scenarios and not technically controlling your destiny outside of sweeping one of the best teams in baseball, which I don't care who it is. There's a reason teams don't get swept all the time, except for maybe the White Sox this year. But,
hey, the White Sox are playing pretty
well
well
right
now.
People are coming with bags on their head and leaving disappointed because their team won. What the hell is going on in Chicago?
We're trying to break some big records, okay? But again, that's where mentally you have to especially rely on these veteran presences to keep this whole, I mean, like you said, it's not rah-rah, but it's reminding these guys we go down early, hey, we have to fight. We have to stay in this. Now more than ever, you have to rely on these guys to step up the way Gallen did. I mean, I go back to it, but you need some key statements in this weekend series.
Yeah. And Zach Gallen's statement, I hope is echoed there, and I hope we can get some pitching like what we saw out of Gallen. That's going to be very important.
Yeah.
We are going to preview, speaking of which, the starting pitchers for this series here coming up shortly, as well as some more on the other side of our break. I did want to tell you guys, of course, about Sanderson Ford. Sanderson Ford is our official vehicle sponsor, and we love the folks at Sanderson Ford. There's some great people over there. They are family owned and operated through 3 generations, and they are a huge part of baseball here in the Valley. You hear about everything they're doing with the Diamondbacks, and of course they're pushing for the playoffs right now themselves, and you get the payoffs like deals on the 24 Ford Bronco Sport Big Ben, just ranked highest in its quality by JD Power. You also can get 0% financing for 36 months with no payments for 90 days on the Ford F-150, Ford Escape, Ford Edge, Explorer, and Expedition. So do not miss out right now. They thrive on a no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense sales approach. So the Diamondbacks, they're under plenty of pressure, but you won't experience that pressure at Sanderson Ford. And their sales event is here right now. They are teaming up with the Boys of Summer for a final playoff payoff sale with their Sanderson Ford Summer Sales Event. Purchase or lease any new Ford and get 4 tickets, which you just got 3 games left to go to for your family to see the D-backs push for the playoffs. Get 0% for 36 months OAC from Ford Credit. See dealer for details. Also, of course, once you get your new Ford vehicle, stop by Circle K. It's a great place for you to fill up, not only put gas in your car, but to get yourself something to drink. It is America's thirst stop. And right now, of course, if you sign up for the Inner Circle program for free by downloading the Circle K app today, you'll get your first 5 full Polar Pops for absolutely free. You also get all sorts of coupons, all sorts of wonderful stuff in the app. You'll save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, and then you'll save 3 cents every day after that. So join that Inner Circle. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. And we stole the Circle K strikeout meter, so we'll get it out of storage and we'll bring it back for the playoffs, because that's hopefully something we will very much need. The
strikeout meter was very full last night.
Off the charts last night. 17 strikeouts.
17.
Jesse did the math. Had to go back to 2002, the last time the Diamondbacks had 17 strikeouts as a team, and it wasn't even a team. It was just one man. It was just Randy Johnson doing it by himself.
Really, we never had more than that.
Yeah, never, not since 2002.
I mean, it's 9-inning games.
9-inning
like,
games,
of course, extra.
Really. So in all of in some of our runs, like 17, we put together some crazy pitching stats. We never punched out more than 17.
I was surprised. I would have figured that a Robbie Ray.
That's what I mean. Robbie Ray would packed a few, and then like a few of our bullpen guys. I mean, we never were crazy strikeout, but that surpurses me.
Yeah, 17 didn't seem, because I mean, the first thing that came out was that it was a season high for the team, but then it turned out to be like essentially a very, very, very long-standing high. And of course,
it happened 10 times, but they were all between 1999 and 2002. And I think Randy Johnson had a lot to do with a lot of them.
Eight out of
Didn't he strike out like 600 in 1 year? I mean, some stupid
something
stuff
like that.
And he was doing it while he was like my age, which is just old.
Okay, I know we're about to go over it, but I have a just interesting thought from my head.
Let's hear it.
Sure.
And again, it would throw off some playoff, but you'd have 2 days and have them back later. But say we go into Sunday, is there any chance that Gallen starts on 3 days rest?
Oh, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel like you do everything you can to win that game if it's a must-win scenario, right? And like, you have no idea what the outcome is. Of
course.
Because at that point, you don't know.
But I mean, if it comes down to it,
are you jeopardizing him starting potentially in
correct?
Game 1
but if you don't get in, that's what I mean.
Right.
So I just thought about it. I was just, jumping ahead, but it's like.
Yeah. I think it's a reasonable question, but I think the fact that the Diamondbacks were not willing to do that in the playoffs last year, like they chose the bullpen game over Zach Gallen on short rest. I would be really surprised if they did that,
Yeah.
just knowing what I know
True.
about them. But it's a totally reasonable question. You can make
Just
a case that's what they should do.
I like to think,
Well, how can you switch things up? How can you take your opposition off guard a little bit, right?
Yep.
Like, and
Yeah.
put one of your best guys out there in one
Yep.
of the most important games, if not the
and
most
even if it's
important
on,
game of
even
the
if
season.
it's only 3 or 4 innings, but to get through that lineup a couple times, and again, I saw some earlier. I think the Padres still have a lot to play for. I don't think these are meaningless at all. I think they have a chance, especially if they win tonight.
If they win tonight, then
it's full
you're
go.
in danger of the Padres. Yeah,
just
absolutely.
going all out.
Correct. Let's go win this thing.
Because
and
if they do, then they get the
rest.
They get the rest.
Which again, we talked about being detrimental, but for them it might be great if they pour all out, go win the division, get that time off. That's massive.
And if they lose to the Dodgers tonight, then again the Diamondbacks can catch them. And the only way that the Diamondbacks can't catch them is if the Padres win one of the games.
Yep.
So you're in a scenario where, I mean, I know we've talked a lot about how you want the Dodgers to win tonight, but if the Padres lose, then the Padres are coming to Arizona with motivation to play every single day until, if it happens, until they beat the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
So that is also another layer of this that's a little bit challenging.
Well, let's take a look at the probables right now and how things line up for this series with the Padres. Right now, the Arizona Diamondbacks have Merrill Kelly going there in Game 1 against Martin Perez.
I think that's the only official starter that's actually listed right now.
The rest is TBD from what
the
I
rest
saw.
the rest is TBD.
Obviously, this is what it would line up to be.
But you don't know if this is, especially after seeing those two guys start. We don't know how Ryan Nelson might impact this in his return.
Yeah.
But the Padres do have Martin Perez in Game 1, Yu Darvish in Game 2, and Michael King, who's been outstanding.
Man, what a
for the Padres.
Good year
going
for
to Game
him.
3.
First year as a starter. Wow.
Talk about trading Juan Soto and still kind of getting decent value. Michael King's been outrageous. We did make a slight adjustment here. Technically, Jordan Montgomery would have lined up to start Saturday and then Rodriguez on Sunday. But given that they had the off day, they have the off day today, they're able to shift guys earlier. I'd be really surprised if the D-backs started Jordan Montgomery with what he's been this year. Obviously, Erod has had his own struggles, but I think you maybe feel a little bit better about him on Saturday. And as you mentioned, Erik, Ryan Nelson could be an option, will be an option. That's my expectation this weekend. I wouldn't think that you would use him in the Merrill Kelly game unless something goes wrong. You're probably looking to piggyback him off Eduardo Rodriguez.
That's what I say. I mean, for me, just from the reports and what we've seen, he is my go-to guy as soon as Eduardo, if anything starts to falter. All hands on deck.
The leash is really
the
short.
leash is thin and short, and Nelson I think will be first guy up, ready to come in.
Plus, I'm a little bit more confident in Brandon Pfaadt giving you some length there on Sunday.
Yes.
Rather than Erod. So, I feel like you would want to have Ryan Nelson ready for Erod start.
That's how I feel.
Just so infuriating that we saw these guys pitch so well just not too long ago, and now you're kind of unsure.
Again,
right?
remember, we talked about this. Not even fans, remember, this is our time more than ever to come together.
Yes.
And if there's ever negative thoughts, today's the off day. Whatever you need to do, go outside. I think it's hitting 100 again today. We're about to cool down, but get your negative thoughts out of your pantry, out of your fridge, out of your closet, wherever they live. Get them out because Merrill, Eduardo, Pfaadt, Nelson, Ginkel, all of them. This is the time. We're all going to come together, and we're going to do it.
These guys all can shove.
Yes, they can.
That. We've seen every member of this team be able to perform at a really high level. It's just consistency, right? It's a long season, but now is the time for you to pull out your best stuff. Also, now is the time to come out to Chase Field.
Yes, I have talked about that. Again, we always struggle with this, and I want to address this. I always say D-backs fans struggle. D-backs fans don't struggle. We have great fans. It's just we are a young organization.
Yes.
In terms of the history of a lot of these other teams. But if you are a Valley sports fan, if you live inside the Valley and you don't have a rooting interest in teams that are in the playoffs, for example, the Giants fans out here, come to Chase Field this weekend. Yeah. Would you rather see the Padres win or the D-backs win?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The scrappy young guys.
If you're a Dodgers fan, Cardinals fan, again, we talk about no one in the Valley, get your butts to Chase Field. There's no excuses. We're going to go over ticket deals here soon. There's great ticket deals to be had. The food is cheap. The parking is cheap. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but there are no excuses. You want to see baseball at its finest point, playoff fashion, September baseball, everything on the line.
Yeah.
This is the time to come. The Padres have been waiting for this moment. Baseball has been waiting for the Padres to be good. The Padres are good. The Dodgers are good. The D-backs are good. Suns fans, Cardinals fans, there's no excuses. again, it's not like it's super expensive. I'm not saying that it's cheap by any means.
Sure.
But
hey, it's way less. It's less expensive than it's going to be should the Diamondbacks make the
Correct.
postseason. But it's going to be the exact same type of atmosphere with the exact same stakes on the line.
Correct.
Right?
And again, you're tired of the heat. It's 72, 75 degrees inside Chase Field.
Yeah.
So again,
Give or
I
take.
challenge you guys. I've talked about
Where
it.
are you sitting? you're in a nice box, obviously.
I don't
Let's get
think
on that and Ken Kendrick later, okay?
I don't think
Let
the
AC
game time
going.
temp has been below about 78
No, but
in a while now. But
there's-
it's much nicer than outside.
It is.
That's
you can,
for
you
sure.
can
What
still
else do
take
you have to
advantage
do
of
this
that AC.
weekend,
Yeah.
right? What
Right.
else do you have to do? Come support our guys. We are 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, a year off a World Series run.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, come feel the seats at Chase and give these guys the support that they need going into this last series.
Yeah, they need it and they love it, right? I mean, I think it's something we see
Yeah.
guys say it. We see Christian Walker bring it up just
Yep.
recently, unprompted, right? Like you think that they're just saying that because it's something to say as a player.
Correct.
Oh, we'd love to see you guys. No, the players love to see that place
Yes.
filled with Diamondbacks fans. And I mean, I heard quite a bit about the 4 home run in a row game during, against the Dodgers.
Yes.
And a lot of players said that like it was like the energy from the Diamondbacks fans and also wanting to spite the Dodgers fans that were there a little bit.
Of
right?
course.
But it was
Yeah.
the energy in the building.
And there's no excuse. I know San Diego's close. That's also my thing. There's a lot of probably Padres fans here in the Valley.
There'll be some Padres fans there.
So
this
if
weekend, too.
anything, let's go in spite of the Padres fans. Let's go in spite of let's provide a home atmosphere, which is something I'm gonna get going here. I'm gonna get hot because we don't have time for it. So I'll be short on it. But nothing is worse, especially right now. We're in a playoff race to step out onto the field and see 3/4 Padres fans in the stadium tomorrow. It will piss me off, and it pisses us off. And again, if anything, take your family. If you're gonna spend it, if you're gonna go do it, now is the time to do it. I'm sorry, Padres fans. I don't care. Let's keep them out of our seats.
Yeah.
And even if you're not a Diamondbacks fan, just go take a Padres seat. Just go
Yeah.
buy a row. Just go buy a couple.
Go sit behind their dugout.
Maybe
Let's
send
take
me some
over their
Venmo
section.
requests. I'll buy you some beers. I'll buy we can set up something here. But seriously, now is more than ever. There's 3 games left. Go see these guys. Give them the support. It's what the Valley wants. It's what we want. Obviously, we're pulling for these guys.
Yeah.
We just want everyone else out there too.
Yeah. And I mean, again, it's that important home field advantage here in this big series that means the difference. It could mean the difference for this team.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the Padres at a glance from this season. This is pretty much their season as it's been. Padres are 91-67. They have a run differential plus 98. They are 8-2 in their last 10, which feels like what their last 10 has been for the last 3 months. It feels like
pretty much.
their team OPS is 747, which is 6th in MLB. Starting pitching ERA at 3.89, which is 13th. Relief pitching ERA 3.73, which is good for 11th. And then outs above average is 1 at 16th. But this Padres team wasn't playing very good baseball at one point during this season, just like the Diamondbacks weren't. But they really they turned it on in a way that has been impressive. And I mean, again, like the Diamondbacks, their season was impacted by injuries and missing some of their star players. And I mean, now these teams are at full strength and everything is on the line. And I know the Padres have already clinched. So at least there's that, right? At least they are not fighting wildly.
They're not fighting for their lives.
This isn't a fluke by any means. I mean, the Padres, especially at the deadline, identified some needs and went out and addressed them.
Yes,
they got big name players. They went out and got Cease. They brought in
Tanner Scott,
Brian Hoeing, some key pieces. And like I said, you look at what they've gotten out of Michael King this year. This is a really good baseball team that I think is built for a deep run in September. Yeah. Again, I think they're going to get beat. That's what I hope. But unfortunately, being a true fan and evaluator, this is a very good team, both on paper and the way they play. They're stacked. They have a good bullpen. They have starting rotation depth. Jackson Merrill has been incredible. Might win Rookie of the Year.
He's been just outstanding. I mean, it's wild that team is so stacked with stars, and then Jackson Merrill somehow is the guy whose name you hear every single night getting the big hit.
I mean, again, you go through Machado, Cronenworth,
Yeah, it's a really deep lineup.
It is a deep lineup.
Profar's been unreal for them.
Profar. I thought he was done a couple years ago.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, literally.
I think he might have thought he was done a couple years ago.
That's why there's still hope, fans. Okay, I'm still not done yet.
Yeah. We're getting it back out there. This is just a stop.
It is a really fundamental. And again, you look at the veteran presence too on that team on the back end. Peralta over there, different guys like that provide jolt, provide energy. Luis Arise is as consistent and reliable of a player as again. You talk about the pieces the Padres went and got. They
literally went and got the best hitter in baseball.
They deserve to be in the position they're in. It's not a fluke. Their front office, their team, their staff, they have put themselves in a position to be legit contenders.
I think that's why it's impressive that the Diamondbacks are right here.
100%.
Right? I mean, even with all of those advantages they have, even with all those superstar players that they got, the Diamondbacks have done it with Jake McCarthy.
Yeah.
And they've done it with Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
And that's no disrespect to these guys.
Not at all.
But they're the players hate to hear this, but if you're a true, honest evaluator, you understand it. There are tiers of players.
Yeah.
And if you understand and can't understand that where you fall on those tiers. But like you said, some of these guys aren't on the same level as the payroll and caliber that Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani are.
Right.
And Freddie Freeman at first base. And Christian Walker is great, but is Christian Walker Freddie Freeman? I mean, you could statistically compare some things, but across the board, we're talking about day in and day out proven veteran big league guys versus, again, I think the way the D-backs have always kind of done it, a group of developed and guys forgotten about that you try to get more out of and you make the most of it. It's always fun and entertaining and keeps you up at night.
For a significant portion of this season, Ketel Marte legitimately gave Shohei Ohtani a run for their money for the National League MVP, right? And I mean, obviously with what Ohtani has done, no one was going to beat him.
Does he get to 60-60?
I mean,
what does he need? 3 homers?
Probably not.
5 homers?
Let me
it just depends on.
Not to get us off track, but you're right. I mean,
he's at 53 homers and 56 on base.
He's doing
seven homers, even for Shohei. Seven homers in 3 games.
Although,
or 4 games.
If there's someone I thought could
in
do it,
Anaheim, I watched him pitch like 8 shutout innings with like 14 punchies, and then he had 9 RBIs with 2 homers the next day. So I wouldn't put it past this man.
He's such a.
But you're right. I mean, Marte was every bit as bat for a bat as good as Shohei for a majority of this season.
Absolutely.
I also feel like we have to mention that Nick Ahmed now plays for the San Diego Padres as well.
I did not know that. To be honest. I did know that.
Officially played for every National League West team, I believe.
Not quite. He hasn't played for the Rockies yet, but this season alone, he has played for the Giants, the Dodgers, and now the Padres.
So then the Padres have even more motivation because I love Nick Ahmed, but I know Nick is firing up that clubhouse to end this team season.
He's giving them every secret on Torey Lovullo.
Nothing more than to see the Diamondbacks lose. Nick, be quiet.
Keep it to yourself, Nick. Well, of course, we thank you guys so much for stopping by. We will have more for you tomorrow night with another post-game show, so make sure to join us for that. This man will be out at Chase Field bringing us updates, so follow him on Twitter at Jesse and Friedman. Follow this guy over here at Archie Bradley 7 on Instagram, because that's where you're going to get the best information from
we'll get
him.
to the tweeting soon. We're not fully there yet.
But the Instagram is gorgeous, so don't miss out on all of the fun he's having. Of course, I'm at Cap_caveman with a K. We have our wonderful producer, Erik Ruby, joining us today, doing an excellent job. Thank you, Erik.
He
is doing a lot of work here today, us and the Suns, and we're both a lot to handle.
All of the other producers just left.
Everybody just let Erik
today,
take care of everything.
Okay, I'm still Damon's dog.
Yeah, we're all Damon's dog.
It feel pretty quiet in here walking in today. You know?
Of course, our show is at, he's at Erik Ruby. That's ERIK Ruby. And he's a gem, of course. We are also at PHNX_D-backs, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you again so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by. We hope you guys have a wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, behave yourselves. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you just win the 3 games. Scenario 1, that's the scenario we want.
Come on.
We all silly like the mayor.